It was an incredible opportunity, to be honest. You learn so much through the in-action opportunities that come along when you're a sports editor. We were structured at a point where we were able to kind of approach it and have multiple beat writers really learn about the teams. There were some good times on the court for sure. Some of the most memorable basketball seasons in Mississippi State history between the men and the women's teams. Those program or those groups, those cohorts of players really created some lasting memories. 2004 was one of my final seasons here. I graduated December 2004. It was tough to leave in the middle of a basketball season, if I'll be honest. But it was time to spread the wings and fly and take what I had gained from the opportunity here and apply it going forward. We had a really great team of writers, really fantastic leadership. The student leadership within the structure of the Reflector, as well as our advisor at the time, such a wonderful expert, a fountain of information, and Mrs. Frances McDavid. She's just someone I still think about and appreciate at every turn, just because of her educational style. Is there as a guide, but it's also, she understands the importance of doing to gain the internal understanding. I feel like her leadership at that time was just so pivotal for so many of us. And it was just fantastic. The camaraderie that we had with the newsroom staff is something I still laugh about. Sometimes it'd be some late night antics. Sometimes it'd be just doing the best we could on deadline. And sometimes it would just be, just learning about a changing world. It is kind of funny walking over to this beautiful John Grisham room at the library. I was just reminiscing on how I used to, when I was a student, we still had to go to the computer labs to access the internet. So it's really just changed so dramatically. I feel like the 24/7 cycle of things is a double-edged sword, because the interest continues to expand, which is great, because that means more people are following along, but it also creates this almost this need to fill voids. And sometimes what you see being filled is not really the greatest things to utilize to fill that void. And whether it's a hot take that suddenly becomes pretty cold in a couple weeks or something like that. So it's that era was just pretty special, because you could do so much with the print product and tell the stories that way, partner them up, and there's just something about holding an item that's coverage, provided coverage for the moments that people still envision and think about. And there's plenty of plays that I still remember, and we were just enabled to pursue and take some chances too. And some of them worked great, and there are others that probably could have been better with a little more seasoning. But you don't get the seasoning unless you start putting everything on the stove. I initially enrolled in Mississippi State as an architecture student. That's what brought me here to Starkville, and I wasn't the greatest architecture student, if I'm being completely honest. But the Tennessee Titans, their first season as the Tennessee Titans was 1999, my freshman year here. They were on TV a lot, obviously with Steve McNair and the Mississippi tie, and it just really kind of blossomed, and a keen interest in that. And so Friday night in architecture school, I was sitting in the studio, probably should have been doing something else better with my time, but I flipped through the Sports Illustrated that covered Super Bowl 34. And that's the one where Steve McNair almost led this game-winning drive. You think about how things could have been different. And then you think about, the storytelling that went into that. So I'm looking at Sports Illustrated and flipping through, and they have this great, like, multi-stage, like, photo essay at the start of the whole drive. And it's just fantastic. And I'm like, wow, that had to be fun to really have this opportunity for this big moment to try to relay and convey everything that went into this thing that is still one of the best endings to a Super Bowl ever. So after that, you hung around architecture for a little bit longer. Persistence, stubbornness, I don't know. Thinking that you've thought of this for forever, and then you just need to pivot. So I did regroup and just got involved with writing and took some classes, teaching, coaching, sports communication. The teaching coaching was just more of mom wasn't sure if I'd be able to make it in sports comm or not. It is a tough field, but took both, grew from both, and then just really started the career. I got the job at the Reflector just first as a reporter, sports writer, covered volleyball, a couple soccer games, matches, I should say, excuse me, and then pivoted to basketball, and then you really realize how much football is such an attention magnet, especially in this region, and it was a way to continue to grow in that regard. So going forward, it became an opportunity to just try to find the unique stories that exist in the NFL. A lot of times it's people who have been doubted before and overcome it, or people who have persisted through challenges or kept working until they got to be the best in their field. And I felt like that was always a really neat draw. I couldn't have told you, like, on that Friday night, if you had told me 25 years ago on that Friday night, it'll work out. You'll get to do this someday. I don't know what would have been more far-fetched at the time, but you just keep going after opportunities. I did go to cover sports in Georgia after graduation, and then moved to South Carolina, covered crime and courts for 2 years. That really taught me a lot about empathy and learning on the fly, to be honest. So after 2 years of that, I went back to graduate school in Nashville, got connected with the Titans, and did a couple of internships as a graduate student, a couple of years as a year-round non-full-time employee, and loved every minute, and just tried to find full-time opportunity. 2014 happened, interviewed with the Browns, Rams, Chiefs, and finally the Vikings, and the Vikings said yes. Yeah, I love Minnesota's literary history as well. It's a very the fan base is very receptive toward editorial content. I love the opportunities there to tell the stories. I don't personally think I'm clever enough to create characters. So getting the opportunity to work in the NFL, the characters already exist, right? And so I don't have to invent them. I just need to try to unveil them. And that's kind of the approach that's been there. It's a franchise that is consistently competed for championships, but is still trying to get the big one. And there's a lot to be said for that. The resolve of the Vikings fan base is something that really resonates with me. I love it. I admire it. I just really appreciate how committed they are and how multi-generational it is. We were talking during a panel at SCJC about just like the fandom that exists in college football, and it's not always the same for every NFL team, but I do think that the Vikings lineage and the way that it has been multi-generational and determined and able to be proud of so many moments, yet desiring the one big one. There's a lot that resonates with that. The market is generally friendly, which I was very enticed by as I was looking around for the next job. When I first heard that there was an opening, I was like, too cold. So, but you get used to it. You buy a bigger jacket, and you eventually become acclimatized, I guess you would say. Food. The food. Uh, the weather. But no, I think yes, the food, but at the same time, there's a certain comfort that that exists, and it's hard to like really pinpoint, but kind of a lot of shared experiences with people who look like me, with people that look completely different than me. It just always seemed like there was an ability to make good connections and relationships, and really enjoy that. I was laughing. I got to visit one of my former college roommates, and who is an architect, and he's actually really good. So good for him. But I got to see him during this trip, Bigger Us, and it was just really great. It's almost like we picked up where we left off, and it's been years, right? Like, and somehow all the memories that you make, all the inputs that you share together, they just still last, and they're memories that have lasted, and you think about that, and it just is really special to know that the relationships you invest in continue, even if you're not pulling from the even if you're not making withdrawals, the investments still are able to last. So that was really good. Definitely miss getting to come to some college games. I love the atmosphere. It was incredible. I actually never been to a major college football game until my first weekend of freshman year, and talk about hooked from the get-go, right? So it's been incredible to see how much the campus has changed, and but also there's some familiar faces when you come back too. And got to have lunch with Mrs. McDavid, and just think about all of her guidance and how many people she's helped on their career paths, and hope she knows how appreciative we all are. I hope that my instructors at Mississippi State, some who have since passed, hopefully they knew how much their work meant, because they're not doing it for fame or fortune. They're doing it for the future. Talk about some overhaul. If you think the campus changed, the landscape of college football is just like morphing out of control. I'm really proud for Ross Dellinger, and the way that he covers college football is really impressive. I don't know when he rests or on lines. Hopefully he does from time to time, but it's really neat to see someone that overlapped with at the Reflector doing that in such a pivotal point in the sport's history. Most of my time in the fall is Viking centric, so it's really hard to touch, keep abreast of everything. In terms of like there's been quite a few disruptions, right? So we had COVID, we had eligibility rules changes, now we have NIL. So what you're wondering in my side of things is how NIL will eventually change players' willingness to participate in certain things, how much more aware they are of the whole media process, and understand like the differences between like a team side approach versus external media, and the fact that both have their place. And so I think it's really just wild. What I want to happen is for there to be an adequate level of compensation figured out, but there may be some benefits and some parameters being set, right? And some because what you really want, and if you've grown up at all appreciating the college sports landscape, is you love the rivalries, you love the fans' passion, you love like the specialness, the like intertwined connection, like a maroon thread, right? For that you kind of feel like exists between you, even though you're just a student or a student reporter, and the people who are on the hard court, right? And so you want what's best for the young people. You want them to have the ability to support themselves for sure. So you want that, but you also are a little leery of just how much influence money is going to have on the long-term setup. And money's important. I get it. It funds a lot, and you've got to have that, but you also try to hopefully create an environment where people are taken care of, and then the system doesn't completely erode, right? So like another thing with NIL is you see so many more transfers, right? So after like 1 year, taking the next best offer and things like that, and I mean it's kind of a free market, and that's something that our country is kind of set on. But at the same time, you lose, like you don't get as, say, like if we're going back to the thread analogy, right? And you loop it through and it becomes stronger, right? Well, you just get that one thread with that player, that personality. It just, the bond isn't as strong, right? So it'll be interesting to see. I'm glad that I'm not involved in those discussions. I wish the very best to people in those discussions, and what I most want is it to be a system that's sustainable because of all of the opportunities it provides for players, for people who cover sports, for people who get to come together and celebrate the fact that sports can still bring people together. What you do is you try to get to know them a little bit and figure out the essence, who they are as a person. As I mentioned, I don't create the character. I try to or invent it. I try to unveil it, right? And so that's some time on task. That's maybe doing some research, talking to some other guys behind the scenes, and really trying to communicate and connect a fan base and readership audience with who that person is at the core. And you just go about it, and you learn to try to figure out what's important to that person, who they are, how they act, what makes them tick. Their why is always important. And then just make them more approachable, right? Like, so one of the good things about so much more presence of social media is the ability to connect, right? And the presence of those personalities. So you're trying to find a way where you can make a unique content that then is enjoyed and then enhances everyone else's appreciation for who the player is, how they operate, what it took to get there, and really build them, not build them up, but really convey the essence of that person, so that the appreciation for the player or the team boosts or continues to improve and expands on that relationship.
Dude, that's great. I learned something from that. Now maybe I have to tell her how these straight up.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think you lapped me. I think I'm about 4 laps behind.
Oh, you're being too modest.
Yeah.
Well, Craig, talk about What advice would you have for somebody who wants to tell sports stories for the?
Yeah, I think it's important for the storyteller to try to process their own personal voice and style. Are you one that likes to do features? And if so, like really dive into that. Skills to observe are always helpful. I work on them daily, I think, and I'm still room for improvement exists. So I feel like there's that. I feel like there's the way you get to know someone, and that only comes with the experience of doing it, right? And so the more you're around someone, the more you understand their personas. You also need to understand that although they might, two players might play the same sport, even the same position, they could be completely different people, right? And different personalities. And there's a unique way of communicating with each person needs to be developed. And then also understand that some people don't enjoy talking about themselves, and that's fine. I actually very rarely do. So this is a comfort zone violation. But if that's the case, then you can find out who else on the team could help tell that story. Thinking of offensive linemen, they not to typecast, but they're among the most quiet guys in the locker room usually. Obviously, your whole goal is to get 5 guys playing as one, so they don't really take a lot of pride in individuality and setting themselves apart from the group. So you have to figure out new ways to tell a feature on an offensive lineman compared to someone else. Well, I think that there's, I personally feel like a level of humility to be sitting in the John Grisham room. I think I may have walked in here a time or two, but when I was a student, but just such reverence for the career and accomplishments that he's achieved in terms of the literary talent that the South has produced. I'm not including myself in that. Let me make that very clear. But you draw influences, right? And you draw from what you read, and there's been so many great influences as you try to develop your own voice, and really see that in a certain writing skill and pull from that. The people that are genuinely interested in investing in helping others along the way, I've benefited from that more times than I can count, and I have profound appreciation for that. And I feel like the relational aspect that exists between people makes its way into the storytelling, and you do try to draw that inspiration. One of the best storytellers I remember early in my journalism studies was Dr. Huttenstein, and she was so fantastic as a writer, and you just soaked in everything that she would relay and pass along to you, and you're like, oh man, that would be so much better to do that. And you get the criticism, and you take it, and it's well deserved, and then you apply it and go forward. And I think that the sincerity with storytelling there's a difference, right? There is a sincerity of style, and then there's some conveyance with lacks of sincerity, especially nowadays. Just kind of engagement farming, if you will. So I think that the sincerity at the core is really, really important. And that's not saying that everyone has to agree on everything, but sincerely understanding who someone is, where they're coming from, and conveying that in a place where hopefully we all meet in ideals kind of the same way that sports brings everyone together for the understandable ideal of let's win this game today, you hope that storytelling has a role in bringing together people who aren't alike on every step, but can better understand each other.